Alright, this is your K-pop auntie back for more of The Most Beautiful Life Goes On, a story of BTS 2021 update. This is going to be part 2. I was thoroughly enjoying part 1. There's a lot of information in there that I did not previously know about BTS. And my in-laws are texting me, asking me what to get their son for Christmas, because that's what happens when you get old. You know your husband better than his parents know him. So let me respond to them real quick on what their son might want for Christmas. Hold on. Mission successful. Alright, I am grabbing my tasty adult beverage. Yeah. It's Friday night. Let's do this.
Which would eventually combine music videos, short films, books, short stories, webtoons, and even a mobile game to create a cohesive story. And I won't go down this rabbit hole because there is a lot to digest, but it's definitely something to look into if you're a hardcore ARMY. The same month, they kicked off their third tour, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life on Stage Tour, where they performed songs from their 2 recent EPs, Part 1 and Part 2. And Part 2 was a hit. Their biggest so far. It topped the weekly Gaon album and Billboard World Albums charts. And on Billboard, it stayed there for multiple weeks, the first K-pop act to do so. It also appeared on the Billboard 200 albums chart. Not world albums, which is reserved for foreign non-English songs, but simply the top 200 albums, peaking at 171. Which is kind of amazing considering that this was back in 2015. They also received Best World Performer at the 17th Mnet Asian Music Awards. This brings us to part 3 of the Youth Trilogy, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life, Young Forever, released on May 2nd, 2016, which featured probably my favorite BTS album cover. Young Forever was actually a compilation album of parts 1 and 2, so it was mostly the same songs, but it was notable that it had some new singles, Epilogue, Young Forever, Fire, and Save Me. The latter 2 performed exceptionally well, with both songs topping the Billboard World Digital Songs chart. This was also the second BTS album to chart on the Billboard 200 at 107. And it topped both the Gaon weekly and monthly chart, which earned BTS their first Daesang. Album of the Year at the 8th Melon Music Awards. They went on to do the second half of their tour, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life on Stage, Epilogue, selling out many of their concerts and even selling out KCON in the US where they headlined the event. In September, they dropped their second Japanese album, Youth, featuring Japanese versions of tracks from their previous 3 EPs, which went gold and peaked at #1 on Japanese charts. And only a month later, in October of 2016, it happened. BTS dropped their second studio album, Wings. It sold over 500,000 copies in its first week. In comparison, The Most Beautiful Moment in Life Part 1, released just the previous year, which topped the Gaon chart, sold about 500,000 in its entire lifetime. Wings was big, but the true showstopper was its lead single, Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
I was fond to do that. I haven't released the reaction yet, but yeah, that's...
Which got them their first all-kill, topping 8 music charts in South Korea. Its music video gained 6 million views in the first 24 hours, which broke the YouTube record for the highest number of views of a K-pop group music video within 24 hours. The album hit number 26 on the Billboard 200, the highest ever charting K-pop album on Billboard. They ended up selling 1.5 million copies in South Korea in 2016 alone, and it netted them the Artist of the Year award at the Mnet Asian Music Awards that same year, the first non-Big 3 artist ever to receive that award.
수상자는
After Blood, Sweat, and Tears, they were on a roll. BTS was unstoppable. In February of 2017, they released the instant hit Spring Day, which, quoting a Korean reviewer, embodied nostalgia and sorrow and opened a new chapter in BTS's aesthetics and lyricism and attracted fans across generational boundaries. Which, by the way, is still on Korean charts after nearly 4 years, and the same day I'm writing this, it ranked number 53 on Melon. It won Song of the Year at the 9th Melon Music Awards. After the release of Spring Day, they went on yet another tour, the 2017 BTS Live Trilogy, Episode 3, The Wings Tour. The tickets sold out within minutes, including in the United States, the first K-pop artist to do so, and went on to win Best Social Artist at the Billboard Music Awards. the first for a Korean artist, but they would go on to
lot
win
of
this award
firsts.
4 years in a row. The next year was a period of massive growth for both the group's popularity as well as their style. They released the Love Yourself series, starting with Love Yourself Her in September of 2017, Love Yourself Tear in May of 2018, and Love Yourself Answer in August of 2018.
Okay.
3 albums that gave us some of the most classic BTS songs that we know and love today, such as
Oh.
Mic Drop,
So much stuff I haven't listened to still. I mean,
Fake Love,
seriously, just
Euphoria?
getting into really intrigued by them. I mean, I
Idol?
knew I was gonna be because of how huge they are and because they're the ones that really
And of course-
pioneered. And I mean, to be
Take your thirst and thrill
oh
it.
yeah, so many ads. I knew that there had to be something like just incredibly special about these guys, because to be the people who are both, I mean, they're trend setting, they're setting the bar, and they are contemporary, and they're continuing to break records. I mean, these guys are kind of the Beatles of our time, really. I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
All 3 albums were commercial successes, Her being their first album to top 2 million album sales. But Tear and Answer also did equally well. These 3 albums, as well as their Japanese album, Face Yourself, proved that they weren't done yet, not even close. During this time, they shattered countless records.
Not
Their
close.
singles went platinum, they topped charts, they won awards. And not only did they break YouTube records, but they broke records that they themselves set again and again and again. This is the period where BTS really started enjoying global recognition, working with huge Western artists such as Nicki Minaj, Designer, and Steve Aoki. It wasn't their first time having international features on their songs, but it was definitely the biggest. And even though they were already, without a doubt, the biggest act to ever come out of South Korea, they had their eyes set
Look at
even
those
higher.
figures.
They went on tour once again for the Love Yourself World Tour. During this tour, they collaborated with Steve Aoki to make the song Wasted on Me.
Haven't heard this one either, I'll tell ya.
Notable for being their first
you haven't already,
all-English feature,
subscribe
and it
so
also
you can,
served as a
catch
jumping
all
off
the
point for
reactions.
BTS to gain a following of English speakers. Not that they really needed the help, as they sold out concerts even in the US leg of the tour, including
kidding,
at Citi
they
Field in
didn't-
Queens, New York, where
it
tickets
helped,
sold
but
out
they
in
didn't-
20 minutes. And
20
as if that
minutes.
wasn't enough, they dropped the movie in November, Burn the Stage, which in the US alone grossed $3.54 million in the first weekend, breaking the record set by One Direction's movie, This Is Us. In September, RM had the unique opportunity to speak at the United Nations, where he spoke of anti-violence and self-love. 2 years later, he would be offered to
How many
speak on a second occasion
groups
about
have done
persistence
that?
and hope in the face of challenges. And to top it all off, in October, the president of South Korea awarded every member of BTS the 5th class Hwangwon Order of Cultural Merit for outstanding meritorious services in the field of culture and art, which is one of the highest South Korean orders of merit one can receive. And that's no exaggeration. 2019 estimates put BTS's contribution to the South Korean economy to the tune of $4.65 billion each year, an equivalent to 0.3% of the country's GDP. They were the youngest to ever receive the honor. 2019, BTS invited to the Grammys, Time Magazine, Billboard. BTS entered a new era. Not an era of simply global recognition, but global dominance. April 12th, 2019, enter Map of the Soul Persona. First things first, you can't mention Map of the Soul Persona without mentioning Boy With Love. It was simple math. What do you get when you cross the singer of one of the best charting songs of all time that went platinum 59 times in 13 different countries with, without a question, the most globally dominant pop group of all time? Well,
listen to that.
you get this.
Boy with Love either.
Nothing less than an instant hit. Number 8 on Billboard Hot 100, platinum in the US, 21 music show wins, number 1 on iTunes in 67 different countries. The most liked and the most viewed YouTube video in the first 24 hours. The fastest video to reach 100 million views. A current view count of over 1 billion views. 7 boys, 1
Billion?
girl, and 7 different hair colors. They were the talk of the town, invited to talk show after talk show after talk show. The second single on the album was Make It Right. written by Ed Sheeran himself, including a version featuring Lau. The album debuted at number 1 on Gaon and sold 3.2 million copies its first month, and that's only in Korea. It became the best-selling album in South Korea ever. It swept every major Korean music show, winning Album of the Year in each one of them. They followed up this legendary EP with the Love Yourself, Speak Yourself World Tour, where they sold out both the Rose Bowl and the Wembley Stadium in only an hour, the only non-English speaking act to do so. They even performed as a solo act in Saudi Arabia, the first foreign act to do that. The last stop of their tour was at South Korea's largest venue, the Seoul Olympic Stadium. They ended up grossing $200 million. During this time, they also created a visual novel-style game for mobile devices called BTS World, where the player can interact with the members. This also came with an original soundtrack with tracks unique to the game featuring Western artists. Zara Larsson, Charlie XCX, and Juice WRLD for the tracks A Brand New Day, Dream Glow, and All Night, respectively. In December of 2019, the group swept the grand prizes for both the Melon and Mnet Music Award shows, the first artist to do that. Map of the Soul persona was legendary, truly a marvel in modern music.
Nice jump.
So, how could BTS follow up the best-selling album in South Korean history, you may ask? Easy.
Another best-selling one?
Make an even better-selling album. And that's what they did with Map of the Soul 7. The album was released on February 21st of 2020, featuring the singles Black Swan.
Skip ahead and listen to that one, react to that one.
And On.
Haven't heard this one.
And sold over 4.1 million albums in just the first week, and the first Korean album to be certified as quadruple million on the Gaon Music Chart. It debuted at number 1 on music charts all over the world, including the US, Korea, the UK, Japan, and much of Europe. It's not an exaggeration to say that this album left a permanent mark on the world, launching BTS into legendary status and becoming the best-selling artist in South Korean history. BTS had scheduled a Map of the Soul tour for April of that year, which would have undoubtedly outsold their record-breaking tour only a year prior. But unfortunately, the COVID pandemic caused the entire tour to be postponed, including the show at the Rose Bowl, which I was supposed to attend. But that didn't stop BTS, who performed virtual concerts, spoke at the Dear Class of 2020 graduation event, and released the Japanese version of their recent album with an original Japanese single, Stay Gold. Stay Gold. And to top it all off, this was only June. At this point, it was clear that BTS had already dominated their home turf, and they had topped the music charts all over the world. This time, their sight was set for the very top. Remember that scene in The Social Network where Mark and Sean talk about how they don't want $1 million, they want $1 billion, how they're not interested in catching 14 trout, but they'd rather catch an 800-pound marlin? Well, that's what they set their sights on. The marlin, the biggest music industry in the world, the United States. And at the top of that music industry, number 1 on Billboard Hot 100. This small group from a company that virtually no one had heard about 8 years ago planned to take on Goliath himself and dominate the American industry on their home turf. And all they had to do was speak English. August 21st, enter Dynamite. Their first English single simultaneously performed better than anyone had expected, but at the same time is exactly what we as an audience had come to expect from the legendary boy band themselves. And they did it. They reached number 1 on the US Billboard Hot 100, the Global 200, and the Global Excluding US chart. And they made sure that if you hadn't heard of them before, you definitely have now. And if that wasn't already the biggest flex, on October 2nd, they came out with Savage Love BTS Remix with Jason Derulo.
I didn't know they did
getting number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 again, less than 2 months after already getting it number 1 with Dynamite. And on the Global 200, where they actually replaced themselves at number 1, the first artist to do so ever.
Of course.
And this is where we stopped in the original video, October of 2020.
Okay, so we're on the 2021
what's happened since
update
then?
Portion now.
Well, not much.
Yeah, unfortunately, not much has happened anywhere.
On November 20th, their 5th studio album, B, was released, featuring the hit single Life Goes On. B was met with critical acclaim and hit number 1 on Billboard 200 and the World Albums Chart, the 5th BTS album to do so, along with topping worldwide charts in countries like Belgium, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, Poland, Portugal, and of course, their hometown, South Korea. And in spite of all these accolades, perhaps the biggest winner was Life Goes On. a synth-pop showstopper encouraging its
song
audience to
too.
continue living
Yeah.
life even in the midst of a global pandemic. The message was clear: don't give up, life goes on. It hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the
That's one
third
of the things
BTS
I've been
song.
appreciating as I've been reacting to the B album is honestly not all of like the melodies in the songs are like up to my flavor, but once I turn on the closed captions, because I watch through the music video, because they have some great visuals in their music videos, and I just want to hear their vocals as well. And then I go back through a second time and turn on the closed caption, and I go from saying, well, I'm not too sure about this song, I don't know if it's my style, and I read the lyrics, and I'm like, okay, fine, I like this song. It's like they have it's really good lyrics that I kind of wish that I would have discovered them a little bit earlier, because some of those songs could have helped me through the pandemic. I had a rough time. I'm one of the people who I went to work every day at my workplace, and suddenly I was home every day. I transitioned to a home office, and I haven't been back to my job since, and to my workplace since. And it's a lot to get used to, and it was really friggin' lonely. I won't lie, it's really friggin' lonely, especially over that first winter in Michigan when you really genuinely get snowed in. So they had some good lyrics in those songs. I really appreciate it.
Do so. BTS gave the fans what they wanted with Life Goes On. Life Goes On
Still
joined the
reacting to
exclusive
the
club of
album
only 8
as
songs
well.
to ever
Not
top the
quite
Billboard
done
Hot
with it.
100 that were not in English, a title most recently held by Despacito. But it was the first to do it in BTS's
More
native
ads
tongue,
incoming.
Korean.
Lipa, Bad Bunny, and Tiny. Intentions by Justin Bieber and Quavo. Dynamite by BTS. Rain.
The same month, the Academy announced that BTS's Dynamite would be nominated for the Best Pop Duo Group Performance,
Okay.
along with songs by J Balvin, Justin Bieber, Lady Gaga, and Taylor Swift. This marked the first time a Korean pop artist was nominated for a Grammy. In December, BTS was invited to sing for Disney's holiday sing-along.
Attaboys for a Grammy.
And on New Year's Eve, Big Hit put on a New Year's concert where they performed again. Things looked really good for BTS and their Grammy nomination, especially since on March 4th, 2021, the official news came. The International Federation of the Phonographic Industry, or IFPI, announced BTS as the Global Recording Artist of the Year, an award given to the best-selling artist of 2020, period, beating out 9 other prominent
nice.
Western artists,
Very
making them the first
nice.
artist from Korea, but perhaps more importantly, the first non-English artist to do so.
Yeah.
Later that month, the Grammys,
I find
the
it
main
just
event
absolutely crazy that they are able to dominate without English in an English-speaking market. Because, like I was just saying, like I'm listening to some of their songs in the B album, and like the music itself, I enjoy kind of the more hypey music. Honestly, that you kind of really rock out to a little bit, and there's some softer songs on there, and I'm like, maybe not. But like I said, once I turn on the lyrics, I'm like, okay, yeah, I like this song. Like, I wish that I knew Korean so that I could appreciate the lyrics. So the very fact that like they're able to dominate it with people not understanding their lyrics, obviously not in all their songs, but that's something. That means that they're really hitting at their market just on sheer music and musicality and vocals.
Everyone was waiting for finally arrived. With bated breath, BTS and the world watched. And, well...
And the Grammy goes to Rain on Me, Lady Gaga, Ariana Grande.
He's getting that. Oh, dang it.
They didn't win. However, they made history for being the first South Korean artist to perform at the Grammys, after presenting at the Grammys the year prior. March 31st, 2021, Big Hit Entertainment officially rebrands as HYBE and completely revamps their organization. BTS now falls under Big Hit Music, which is now a subsidiary of HYBE Labels, a division of the HYBE Corporation. 2 days later, HYBE acquires Scooter Braun's Ithaca Holdings. Scooter Braun Projects is a subsidiary of Ithaca Holdings that manages several artists, including Ariana Grande, Justin Bieber, J Balvin, Carly Rae Jepsen, Black Eyed Peas, Demi Lovato, and others, which means that those artists are now part of the same family as BTS. Then, at long last, BTS announced their highly anticipated follow-up single to their smash English hit, Dynamite. And that single was Butter. May 21st, 2021.
I like that one.
It didn't disappoint. The retro summer pop hit met immediate success, and on May 26th, the BTS meal launched.
Yeah, the BTS.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that happened.
I'm not a fast food person either, so.
June 16th, BTS releases their third Japanese compilation album, known as BTS The Best. It instantly hit #1 on Japan's Oricon chart and sold over 1 million albums. The first and only Korean boy group so far to accomplish this feat. The new Japanese single, Film Out, was released 2 months earlier and debuted at #1 on the Oricon chart.
I haven't reacted to that one.
And as an interesting fact, charted at 185 on the Billboard 200 excluding US chart, joining Dynamite and Life Goes On, making BTS the only artist to ever have 3 songs in 3 different languages on the Billboard 200. On July 1st, following an organizational restructuring, the Hype Corporation announced that Hitman Bang, our same Hitman Bang who got the boys together, resigned as CEO of the company in order to focus on his passion for music production. And while he is still the chairman of the board of directors, he was replaced as CEO by Park Ji-won. On July 7th, BTS became official models for Louis Vuitton as they walked the runway for part of their men's fall-winter 2021 collection. They were named as ambassadors only 2 months prior, and then for their teaser trailer, they forgot to put V in the video. And finally, that brings us to July 9th. Permission to Dance, which was released only a few days ago. The hit song, which was written by Ed Sheeran, spreads positive vibes as the world starts to recover from the global pandemic.
Sounds like we're gonna need a 2022 update coming up soon.
Its YouTube debut saw 72.3 million views in the first 24 hours, placing itself at number 6 of the top 10 most viewed music videos in the first 24 hours. Out of BTS's past 5 singles, 3 of them have been fully in English. And while this trend has been concerning for some fans who have been wanting more traditional Korean pop songs, there's no denying that BTS has enjoyed global recognition like no other international and particularly non-English group before them. And that itself is a sign of success that can't be ignored. And as a fun fact, there's a line in the song referencing legendary singer-songwriter Elton John.
When it all seems like it's wrong,
He gave the song his personal approval.
Very cool. Very cool.
So what makes BTS so special? How did they achieve all this? K-pop is a genre that spans for at least 30 years, and there have been hundreds of boy groups and hundreds of girl groups. What did BTS do to rise above all of them and break through to markets never before seen? Historically, the boy band industry has been dominated by white English-speaking bands. And the fact that BTS has not only held their own, but blew any sign of competition out of the water on a global scale can be attributed to nothing less than their talent, hard work, and a bit of a 1 in a million miracle. They did it through their own blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak. Around the world, we see that boy bands have pretty much fallen into obscurity, but BTS is thriving. And though I've stated this all before, it's worth saying again.
I think K-pop is bringing the boy band back, man. Back in high school, there were multiple of those white English speaking boy bands and some non-white. Let's give them a little credit, but nonsense like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and stuff. That got over pretty quick.
In contrast to other bands who would sing about romantic relationships with girls and what some would call predictable bubblegum pop tunes, BTS is continuously pushing the envelope and changing their styles. According to an article by Vulture.com, they describe this style as much less a successor of the Backstreet Boys and more of the successors of Michael Jackson, whose choreography and charisma were unprecedented. While of course there's a lot of love for the angelic vocals of BTS, rap has also played a very important part in creating their own style. In stark contrast to the typical boy band where every member sings, it's so refreshing when you're in the middle of a song and you hear RM's raw rapping skills, J-Hope's energy, or Suga's soul put into every single line. Interestingly enough, at the first glance, it seems that the success of BTS was miraculous, despite not being part of the Big Three. But it can also be argued that their success was because of their separation from the Big Three. Their label, Big Hit Entertainment, whose founder emphasizes artistic freedom more than anything else, allowed them to make their own sound. And
Very
going
cool.
back to BTS universe, it's not often that a K-pop group does something special with each of their songs and albums, utilizing strong storytelling that can go beyond simply the song itself, but rather interconnected with other songs and even other albums to create one large overarching story. And not only do they all have their own expertise in performance, but also each of them have had the experience of writing and producing their own music, and they're not afraid to let their style evolve over time. BTS during their debut is such a far cry from Wings era BTS and current day BTS. They
I'm
also
understanding
chose
that.
to tackle more adult
I'm
issues
beginning to
instead of
understand
simply
that.
love and girls. While they definitely didn't have a shortage of those, they also cover other very important issues such as mental health, regret, following your dreams, hard work, self-love, and many, many others. Add that to the fact that as fans, we can feel the authenticity of the members themselves. They seem approachable. BTS seems like
I'm good at
there's
that
a
too.
place for every type of fan. And in this fast-paced world where things change at unthinkable speeds,
They seem
BTS has stayed
normal.
grounded and faithful to who they were and who they are. Those kids we saw on American Hustle Life, along with their dreams and passions, are the same men who stand before us today. And while some
crazy. I
artists
might
like to
have to
keep their
watch
personal
it.
lives private, BTS gives us a look at their personal lives through their vlogs, which allow us to become more connected to them than ever before. What is truly amazing is that they're doing this all while singing in their native tongue, Korean. Their music holds so much power that it literally breaks through the barriers of language. And no, they're not done yet. They've shown that they're
Not
capable
close.
of dominating music charts across the world and even reaching across the Pacific Ocean and conquering the music industry in the United States. What's next for them? Mars? In any case,
Good question.
they've only started in 2013 and BTS is as strong as it's ever been. And that's our 2021 update. There's been lots of exciting news for the group so far, and I'm gonna guess that 2021 will still have a lot of surprises waiting for us. Thank you to everyone who watched the original video. We've
You're welcome. That was a fantastic video. Thank you again for linking that to me. Linking me to that to me, somewhere along there. That was definitely the most informative of the guides that I have watched yet. So I'm really happy. I took a look at another one because, I mean, kind of mind blowing there. They are. How they began is crazy, with just almost how random it is that the 7 of them got together, and now we have them just dominating the world stage. And my dog is whining and ringing the bells to be let out, so I'm going to cut the exit short, and I am going to have a tasty beverage. I encourage you to grab whatever tasty beverage of your choice as well. And hey, you all have a wonderful day.